everybody. Welcome to episode 29 of Tech Safe here in Worcester, Massachusetts. A big shout out to our studio here. One of the last bastions of independent reporting in the United States is our local cable stations. So please support your local station, and thank you for having us to teach people how to use today's wireless technology safely, or even skip wireless altogether and have really impressive technology going through wires. Right? Good old Ethernet cables. Back of the router, plug that in. You can get adapters to most of your devices for $20 or $30. It won't break the bank for most of us. Then just plug that in and go into your device settings and turn off all the antennas. The Wi-Fi, the Bluetooth, the locator, the hotspot, and any other 5G antennas that might have been put in there. And as our guest from last episode, Doris Knick from Virginia, indicated to us when she hardwired her home, and it was actually her internet service provider that came out and did that for her. They ran the cables, and they also put the Ethernet ports into the rooms where they access their technology. She said it took about $100 to get them to do that and was worth every single penny. So if you are not a do-it-yourselfer, just know there are resources out there to help you. An electrician can run these things too if you have an electrician coming into your house. And then you always have to measure. So we talked last episode about getting radio frequency detection meters, and that libraries are starting to put them into circulation too. So feel free to look at that episode for additional information on that. And Doris and I spoke at length about the choices she made around educating her two children. During the pandemic, the children were issued Chromebooks to go home and access their education, and nothing else in their lives had changed. They weren't a fear-based family, so the pandemic wasn't freaking them out. They ate clean living, clean, healthy lifestyle, and all of a sudden the children started having symptoms of microwave sickness, and a friend of Doris's had tipped her off that there could be something up with wireless radiation. So as a mom, she started doing the deep dive and figured it out. And indeed, when she started measuring, it was the radio frequency radiation. So once they hardwired their house, the kids' symptoms went away. Now, I've asked Doris to return with us now for a second episode because she had invited me to go down to Virginia to attend a medical conference that Dr. Sheila Fury and others in Virginia Medical Freedom Alliance had put together. And so I want to spend this half hour talking about how she got involved at the community level and what she is doing to try and protect those in her area. So Doris, welcome back, and thank you for giving us another chunk of your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
So how did this Virginia Medical Freedom Alliance form, and how did you get involved to lead the technology component of that alliance?
So the Virginia Medical Freedom Alliance formed shortly after Dr. Paul Merrick, who is the Virginia emergency room surgeon. And if I'm wrong, we can fix that. But I wasn't with them at that point. But there was controversy as the Centera Hospital here in Virginia. Paul may have seen his video where he explained that he felt like his hands were being tied behind his back. So people came together to support Dr. Merrick and his work. And that included Dr. Fury and some of the other nurses and doctors and advocates. And so the Virginia Medical Freedom Alliance was being formed by those doctors getting together. And also, you know, we had the March Against Mandates, which was in DC. And so doctors were collaborating and getting together then. So that's actually the first time I met Dr. Fury without realizing who she was at the March Against Mandates. And it was at the Virginia Department of Health is where I was speaking. In regards that particular time, I had been going and speaking to them about the wireless issue via Zoom when things were shut down. And then I was attending in person. And just so happened that I was bridging the gap between both issues that lack informed consent. And so I had spoken and given my public comment, and a gentleman wasn't so kind on the board responding to me. And actually one of the doctors, it was actually Dr. Barb Zedler, had come outside after my public comment and approached me and said, "Hey, we need you, we need," because I was speaking on the issue of informed consent and things related. So I was thrilled. I was so happy. I was like, oh my gosh, there are doctors there, and so I was thrilled, and I jumped on a Zoom call with them that following. I think I talked to Dr. Fury on a Monday. There was like a VAMFA team call on Tuesday, jumped on that Zoom call, and the rest is kind of history. We became more formalized with a board and a website, and email communication, social media communication. The need for a group was so critical. So VAMFA's mission is to restore and protect the unalienable, God-given individual right to medical freedom within the Commonwealth of Virginia by ensuring informed consent and bodily sovereignty. And so, we're not anti-technology, we're for informed choice. And both of these issues were so, both your ability to control what goes into your body was so important to me. And I also saw that in combination with the technology piece. So I never could separate the two. So this particular group was a wonderful fit and a blessing. They were willing, and Dr. Fury was aware that the technology was harmful. So, and the other doctors.
I share your sentiment there. For 2 years, I was completely on my own investigating this, and I was reading more and more science saying, we have got a major problem here. And I had nobody to speak to about it. So it was very alienating when you can see that people are being harmed and nobody understands. There was one person in our town, he was our town manager at the time, and he had worked in the military as a fighter pilot. And our government would still check in with him to see if he had had any health fallout from being up in those planes with high levels of both man-made and natural radiation. So he was like the only person in my town that had any idea that these man-made frequencies could be harmful. So I get it when you say that Dr. Barb Statler connected with you, how gratifying it was. And I had that moment when Patricia Burke, who is the woman who actually brought me into the WCCA studio here in Worcester to talk about utility smart meters, she reached out to me out of the blue, and she referenced a bill that I had here in Massachusetts that would bring the right minds together at the state level to form a commission and start examining the issue and then decide what to do. And she reached out to me to tell me that there was a panel of world-leading experts coming to our state house here in Massachusetts to ask for, as you say, right-to-know legislation. Because once we have the right to know, then we have the right to choose. And so like you say, the rest is history. We've been going full tilt now for 10 years here. I have in Massachusetts, and I know you've been in this for a few years in Virginia. So what sorts of things are you doing beyond your own home now?
Oh, goodness. So we do social media posts every Wednesday on the wireless issue for the Virginia Medical Freedom Alliance. We bring on guest speakers each month, and we've covered different topics. Bringing you, Cece, was the highlight for me because, as you know, you're one of my heroes. Watching you just inspired me. It truly did, to want to be able to help educate people and share the truth. So having you come to the summit was incredible. I'm incredibly active, not only at the state level. So I've been to the Virginia Department of Health. I've been to the Virginia Department of Education. Then I also have been to the State Corporation Commission, who oversees our utilities, spoken there. And then I also have spoken plenty of times at my local Board of Supervisors, as well as my local school board meetings. So I've had to pull back. I was doing a lot more locally prior to joining the Virginia Medical Freedom Alliance. Then I was focused more on state issues, but it's coming back. It's kind of figuring out where the right pressure point is, and that understanding that this issue is something that needs to be educated thoroughly, right? So in Virginia, our board of supervisors in my particular county owns the school property. So when there's a cell tower on the school property, it's the county that you need to address. So I was, figuring out how all of that works. I mean, prior to 2020, I was a mom, I was teaching, I was planning on going back to teaching in the public school setting. That was where I thought I was going to go until everything changed in the world. We've been able to continue to come. I mean, our Department of Health only meets quarterly, so 4 times a year. And so we're beginning to bring more and more people to expose this issue. And I think that's incredibly important, because your EMF conference is incredible. I wish I could force everyone a part of the department, the Board of Health, to watch that so that they could become educated on this issue. There's just so much work to be done. Honestly, there really is. The education is crucial, and it needs to happen all around. And simultaneously, with your legislators, with your government body, with the people. So it's this triangle.
You're so right. Dr. Martin Luther King framed it up that anytime we have important inroads finally taken care of in society, it comes through 3 areas. 1, the public becomes educated, which is where I prefer to spend my time. That's kind of my happy place. And then they learn enough that they band together and make the changes happen. It goes through the courts, and we have some amazing lawsuits in play right now. And then ultimately public policy catches up. So public policy may be the last piece once enough people start to become informed and enough towns start to get informed and say, now, wait a minute, this isn't what we want, right? I was actually talking to one of the scientists, and he's also an attorney, last night, and he was saying that we already have technology available that can be deployed in lieu of wireless that is not biologically harmful. So with all of our, cell phones and wireless laptops and wearables and baby monitors and gaming systems and, all the wireless signals pulse this spiked erratic microwave radiation at us. That's what they would term modulated. There are other technologies through quantum physics that use particulates instead, that go off through the air and then reassemble, and you have your data, that do not hit us biologically. And apparently Li-Fi can also be used much more safely than Wi-Fi. So that's a light energy form as well. So the technology exists. I think that our space programs are already using it, and they've already laid what's called dark fiber underneath the railroad tracks almost throughout our entire country. So the fiber optics connections were laid years ago. And what we need to do is now connect those to our premises. It became highly profitable, cheaper, and faster for the industry to start putting up 5G small cell antennas. They want to put them every 2 to 12 houses right in our neighborhood at the curb outside of our homes. Cheaper, faster, more profit coming in more quickly. What they ought to be made to do is to bring that fiber optic connection right to the building, where we can all just simply hook up through our routers with Ethernet cables and adapters, and then go in and turn off the wireless settings. Our engineers, if asked, they can also be made to make devices that automatically shut off the antennas if it goes near your head or something, or if you plug in an Ethernet port, then it automatically turns off the antennas. They've just never been tasked to do that. So these are solutions that we as citizens can start asking for. But I was really intrigued, Doris. You have studied the work of some other folks in Michigan on doing a resolution for your township. Can you talk us through that experience?
We have a team of Stop Wireless Harms Radiation team. And so we're trying our best to spread the word, showing up at various events in different communities all over, doing all the things we can to raise awareness. And there was a gentleman who I'm connected with, and he had a meter put on his home. And so,
meaning a smart meter, a utility meter? Okay.
Yes, the smart meter without his consent. And this was shortly after the summit that you attended with us. And I was so frustrated for him. And he was doing some research too. And he's the one actually who found the link for it's smartmetereducationnetwork.org is the website. And I was blown away by the amount of towns that had passed resolutions at the local level. And he was too. So he had reached out to his board of supervisor, and his board of supervisor actually was pretty upset because he had a smart meter put on his home too without consent. He actually happens to live down the road from him. So we thought we were coming, and that he was thinking that we were going to be able to present via PowerPoint. So we had been working on a PowerPoint, and when that did not occur, he said, well, maybe we can, it was a Monday and this board meeting was on a Thursday. Let's see if we can get a resolution to hand them at this meeting. And he showed me this website. I was very impressed. It had a sample template on it. I had seen one before from California and had brought it to my county, but of course they weren't willing to do the work of creating it for our state and for our county. So I reached out to some legal friends that have been assisting us, and they were able to supply some samples also and add in some crucial pieces and dot the last I's and cross the last T's. And it was a Hail Mary. I mean, I had said to Tom that this will be a miracle if we can pull this off in the next, 4 days. This was a Monday evening when we were talking about this. And the Lord just provided. I mean, he absolutely brought in the people. I mean, it was the Thursday, and I was going to his board meeting that night. My kids had a field trip. I had called that attorney and said, could you take a look at this? And he was able to while I was on a field trip with my kids. It was an act of God. It really was, to have this resolution now. And hopefully by the time this airs, I'm not sure exactly when this will air, we will be able to have some of this up on our website or have, a success story. And there are at least 2 more that have contacted me, 2 more people within our state that are interested in bringing this to their boards too.
Well, I have to tell you, when you shared that with me this week, I started looking at the resolution. Resolutions always have all these statements that start with whereas, whereas, whereas. And you were pulling information from your state Bill of Rights in your state constitution. And I thought, gee, I've never taken a close look at the Massachusetts one. So I started looking at the Bill of Rights in Massachusetts. And they do say things like, you have the right to autonomy over your own property, right? And that if we ever get into a situation where the government is representing companies instead of the people have the right to speak up and fix that. So it was really empowering for me to look at that and to now know that I can reference in my own state law what it is that our public servants are supposed to be doing to protect us instead of protecting these corporations. And I wanted to share a story. Somebody in a town in Massachusetts, also, she chose to take her kids out of public schools and to homeschool because she knew the environment was electro-polluted. And they've worked very hard, like you, to hardwire their home and create a sanctuary for their family. And now the local, I think it's a local water company owned by the town, they are trying to put in some sort of a meter in the sidewalk right outside their house that helps with this smart water system that they're trying to roll out throughout the town. And so this town has not been cooperative. They've not offered her an opt-out that would be reasonable. What they're trying to do is this extortion to say, okay, well, fine, if you want to have an analog meter, you're going to have to pay $100 a month. for a public utility, in addition to what you consume for the, the energy or whatever it is that it's measuring. So we have a bill here in Massachusetts that would give everybody by law the right to opt out of this technology being imposed on their homes at no fee. So we're hopeful that we'll make some headway. Vermont has had a no-fee opt-out for more than a decade. And this woman in the town that I just mentioned, she sent me an article this week. In the town of Franklin, Massachusetts, the head of the Department of Public Works there has been fined by the state ethics board because as state employees, I used to be one, every year we have to take online training on ethics. And one of the stipulations is you cannot accept a gift from a vendor in excess of $50. Well, it turns out this DPW head had gone on these ski boondoggles a couple of times, and he got fined $15,000 by the state for breaking the law on ethics. So it is good to know that there is some accountability there, but we've seen other squirrely behavior at the municipal level when these towns own their own utilities. There's a woman in Bridgewater, Massachusetts, who has electrical sensitivity. She has notes from her medical team saying she cannot have these smart meters on the homes because they pulsate microwave radiation 24/7. And instead of giving her the accommodation that she deserves under the Americans with Disabilities Act, this water organization in her town shut off her water during the pandemic, when you can't even go to somebody else's house to access water. So we have just lost our humanity in so many cases like this. And so I'm so grateful to know that you're reviving this resolution idea, because as we come together as citizens in our own towns, and if we can get resolutions like this passed in our town, that is something that our legislators can sink their teeth into and say, wow, look at all these towns, look at all these citizens. I guess we better start paying attention to this issue. So I'm grateful. This episode will be out in 2 weeks. So probably by the first week of March. So maybe if you have your resolution up on your Virginia Medical Freedom Alliance website, then people can access it there and maybe use it as an example and just marry it up to their own Bill of Rights and their own legal. And I love that you had an attorney look it over for you, because that's important. I don't have that background. So I'm afraid that if I were to rewrite my town zoning code, I could put all these landmines in there that I don't even know exist. So I love that you had an attorney look at that. When I was there, you worked really hard to set up appointments for us to go to the State House. Do you want to tell our viewers how that day went?
It was wonderful. If you ever have the opportunity to have CC come to your state,
no, that's not what I need you to say.
I'm serious. Well, she was educating from the moment we walked in the door. She was educating the gentleman who you walk through the radar detector. People standing there while in the in-between of getting in with the different legislators. It was amazing. You just have such a great way of, hey, would you like to learn something new today? That was one of the many things she said. Or, hey, have you heard what's going on with the wireless? I mean, just amazing. Anyway, it's so inspiring. And having the Safe and Sound Pro 2 is so crucial. I think anybody who's in this battle, it's important to have the tools to use to educate others. So I know I hadn't been in there in the offices to be able to show them the radiation levels and help them find it in their phone. And the Senator Stanley, he was bringing forward a bill in regard to prohibiting cell phone uses in the schools, basically giving permission that any school board could create a resolution to prohibit cell phone use. The bill, nothing saying this many hours or any of those details. That would be left up to the individual school boards, but a great step in the right direction. Mm-hmm. And Cece had the gentleman in the room and the senator himself, their phones were a mile away. They were like, oh, I don't want to touch that thing. Where are you guys from? What is going on? I mean, it was amazing. It really,
But you
it
know
was
what?
just
They have
incredible.
kids and they were really wanting to know about this. And I had brought with me my printed bound copy of the New Hampshire legislature's final report on Commission to Study Environmental and Health Effects of Evolving 5G Technology. So, like you said, you need to know your audience, you need to know the systems that you are trying to navigate through, and to be able to show a senator that, look, you don't have to be the first one to stick your necks out on this. New Hampshire has already done all the hard work. Let's pivot off of this and see what Virginia can do. So, I'm so grateful that he introduced that bill, and we should all know that the Netherlands and Finland and Sweden and parts of England and France, they are taking technology out of the classroom. This is not how children properly learn. They need meaningful connections with their peers and their teachers. They need to have movement. They need to have nature and touch. Not the shallows of a screen. So I am so proud of Senator Stanley for introducing that bill. I hope it continues to progress. It's come out of committee already, so we hope that that will get further. We have about a minute left. Is there any additional information that you would like for us to know today, Doris?
You know, if you've listened to this or you felt it upon your heart to take action, it is important. We have a whole generation of children that are being affected by this, and parents that there's still people out there who don't know, despite all the amazing work that you've done, Cece, myself, and others. You know, there's plenty of education. There's plenty enough people to educate and for that to go around. So if you're in Virginia and you want to get involved, you know, at the grassroots level, and I would love to partner up. My email is healers, HEALERS, porch, PORCH @yahoo.com. We have an awesome team of people that are working. We have 3 distinct goals, and we're looking for people to help us make those goals, achieve those goals, I should say. I think it's time that we hold our legislators accountable, and that we put health and safety above technological progress and profit, because for humanity's sake, this is crucial. And if you're a parent or have grandchildren, or just in any way, shape, or form, our children are counting on us to protect them. It's up to us. No one else is coming to rescue you. And our agencies are completely and utterly captured. And education is good, right? But you've got to have the tools, and then you've got to take action. Change doesn't happen without all 3 of those things being married together.
Right.
So,
you are so right. And thank you for that message from the heart, Doris, because it's hard for us to watch what's happening once we know that the harm is really being inflicted. So I thank you so much for doing these 2 episodes with me. I look forward to co-hosting our educational forum on the 25th of March at 6 p.m. Eastern. And folks can go to Massachusetts for Safe Technology, and we'll have the registration links up for that soon. I will share them with Doris, and she can then put them up on the Virginia Medical Freedom Alliance website as well. So thank you so much, Doris. I'm so grateful for your time, and have a tech safe day, everybody.